How many times have you procrastinated something to the point where you just felt like giving up on it entirely? Even though you had all the right intentions to just express yourself, to tell that girl to sit down and finally do that project, to start that YouTube channel, but you just couldn't? You know that feeling when your body just won't move, when your mind just won't stop overthinking it? Yes, that feeling. That feeling can make a heaven out of hell, and we've all been there. But we often hear just do it, just act, just get over it, and just do the thing. And that can be much harder than we really realize. For in fact, in chapter 3 of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says to Arjuna, like, why don't you just do your obligations? And Arjuna asks, oh, but tat kim karmani ghore mam niyo jayasi keshava, which means, so if knowledge is truly superior to action, then oh Krishna, why do you engage me in this terrific action? Because if I can just sit there and learn and realize the self through pure knowledge, then why should I ever do anything? But we all know that knowing something and doing something can sometimes feel worlds apart, and this gap is what makes all the difference. Krishna replies to Arjuna in verse 8 and he says, Niyatam kuru karmatvam, which basically means just do your duties. Just do what you have to do, because action is always superior to inaction. So it's always better to do that thing instead of sit there and be covered in Cheeto dust. But in those moments when we're procrastinating, it just feels like just doing that thing, just trying it can be the hardest thing ever. And procrastination is this beast that we're all too familiar with. It feeds off our doubts. It feeds off those limiting beliefs. It also feeds off our previous tendencies towards procrastination. And we all know that loop when we start off by creating a to-do list, and then we end up on Instagram and then on YouTube for some research, and then we go down this rabbit hole where we just feel like, okay, let's take it, put it aside and try again tomorrow. So we all want to deal with it and tackle it on its head, but what can we do about it? If you want to get rid of this problem, firstly, you're in the right place, you're watching the right video, but we must first deeply understand it in order to get over it or to completely just remove it. And so what we're going to do in this video is we're going to understand its core and pick it apart and understand how it comes and then resolve it within ourselves. So the first part of this video will just be in understanding why we procrastinate, and the second part of this video will be on some tools and tips on how to overcome procrastination and get that work, that project, that thing done. Cool. Are you ready? Let's dive right in. Now, in my opinion, I understand that the main reason why we procrastinate is because of a Greek term called akrasia. Now, this means that the phenomenon of acting against our own better judgment is akrasia. Now, in fact, I actually wrote a whole paper on this in my undergraduate philosophy degree, and I was procrastinating on writing about procrastinating, and it was kind of funny because actually just the day before the deadline, I was somehow able to muster enough motivation to finish it, actually through the tools that I understood in studying those papers. And as Greek philosophers say, when we act against our own better judgment, what we do is essentially we are procrastinating. We feed into this procrastination narrative and it creates more of it. This made me realize that when I go through life knowing that there's something I'm meant to be doing, like in this moment, if there's something else I'm meant to be doing but creating this video, speaking to you right now, then it has a huge mental effect on my state of being. And when you promise yourself that you're going to create that plan, you're going to do this thing, and that plan never happens, you essentially lose trust in yourself. Over time, this shows up as effectively you're lying to yourself and creating these habits of mistrust within yourself. So it's kind of like an integrity thing. So, why do we do this? Essentially, we do this because of the negative emotions that we associate with a given task. Now, it's not about time management, it's not about knowing the exact right procrastination technique, but it's because we procrastinate because of the negative emotions that we have come to associate over time with that said task, and this actually prevents us from truly ever making progress. When we begin to associate shame or low self-worth and things like this, we begin to procrastinate more, to the point where we actually identify with that part of us that habitually averts action, that part of us that habitually shies away from ever acting, ever doing that thing, even though there's a large part of us, this reasoned part of us, that wants to act, that wants to get things done. And how does this look in day-to-day life? It looks like resistance. Whenever you feel this sense of resistance, have you noticed how it feels in the body? It kind of feels like, oh, you just want to run away from it. This feeling of just negative emotions stuck somewhere in the body. Resistance is actually something that Steven Pressfield, an author, talks about in his book, The Art of War. I highly recommend it if you haven't read it yet. And basically, he says resistance means that it's the thing that keeps you from doing your work. Just think about it. In this moment, what is the thing that's keeping you from doing your work? Is it mental? Is it physical? Is it something in the external world? And really understand resistance at its core. And there's always resistance when you want to do work. It's just like when you sit down to do sadhana, or when you sit down to do something that you really want to do, all the forces come up, all these negative forces come up, and you want to check Instagram, or you want to like something on Facebook, or you just want to go into the fridge and eat something. Because deep down, you know that the work is so important to you that one part of you is deeply scared of just doing it, of the outcome. And it's interesting because Indian philosophy has a completely different and more nuanced view, I'd say, of this phenomenon of procrastination. It says that the root cause of this tendency is ego. Every conscious act requires a willingness to suffer an injury to our self-esteem. I'll repeat that once again. Every act of conscious learning requires a willingness to suffer an injury to one's self-esteem. So, if you've noticed this in young children, they don't have a sense of identity. They don't have a sense of ego that's calcified yet. And so, getting them to do something like paint or dance is easy because they don't have that calcified sense of identity. And so, we don't have any stakes. And this is why I think it's really important to start with a beginner's mind and to think like a child. But in real terms, what can we do about it from today? The first step, I believe, is to become a witness. It's to become a non-judgmental observer of our own behavior. And this means to kind of step outside of the mind and view yourself and your actions. Think of it like a CCTV camera in the room. If there was a CCTV camera in this room right now, it would be observing my behavior, observing me speak, without any commentary, without any judgment, without anything on top of what's going on. And this, really to observe our minds and step out of it, requires, of course, preparation, practice, and application. So to be able to still the mind and direct the mind's great resources is, of course, a tremendous challenge, no doubt, but it must be done. And this is why we have practices like yoga and meditation to help us really hone the mind's power to still it. And to do this effectively and constructively, you must learn to work with the mind, not avoid it or dominate it or try and make it, confine it into a place, try and sit like in one place and say, I'm going to do this right now for the next 4 hours and try and give it unrealistic expectations. We want to work with it as if we were working with a child. And the way to do that is to bring the mind first into a state of focus. When you bring the mind into a state of true focus, it amplifies the mind's power, and the mind is a super powerful tool, right? And it establishes you in the role of the seer, a position that's outside the mind, that's outside this doing, this acting, this person that keeps doing different things. Now, when you observe and you keep yourself in a position outside of the doer, you begin to inhabit this witness, this observer. So, how do we actually focus if focusing is the key to experience this position outside the mind, which is when you can truly find a way to beat procrastination and get things done? The way to do this, I believe, is by controlling and consciously directing our thought flow. So, in this moment, as you listen to me, can you control and direct your thought flow to just the words that are emanating from my mouth? If you can follow every word without your mind going in a million different directions, then you're consciously directing thought flow towards a sound and towards the visual impression of my face speaking. So, of course, this requires a lot of practice and preparation, and it's a daily practice. But first, in our day-to-day lives, we can prepare the mind by first, of course, removing distractions. And by removing distractions, what I mean is to remove the distractions from both the physical space as well as the digital space. In the physical space, it can look just like cleaning up your room or literally just cleaning up your space. Maybe that's lighting a few incense sticks. Maybe that's clearing the entire room, cleaning up your space, and making sure that it's nice and neat. Maybe you lock the door. Maybe you say, okay, don't disturb me for the next 4 hours. Next, you want to clear up the digital space. Now, I like to recommend this app called Focus Lock, which really helps you remove all distractions by literally making the distracting apps on your phone disappear for a set period of time, and then they reappear when you're ready. This way, even if you touch your phone and you have to use it for a timer or you have to use it to call your mom, you won't be distracted by the apps that truly demand your attention. And this again, coming back to the Gita, it in chapter 3 verse 6, I believe, it's kind of like this notion that you are a vimudatma or a true fool if you're outwardly just controlling these organs of action, but internally you're completely just dwelling on these objects. So this means like you're a big fool if you're outwardly just saying, okay, I'm not going to be on Facebook, I'm not going to be on Instagram, but you're still reveling in these things internally. And so we must remove it at the root, and we must remove distractions both on an external level as well as on an internal level. Of course, removing and decluttering the external space helps to declutter the internal space, helps to purify the mind, and helps it concentrate more. Once you've done this, give it just one task. Don't try and task it with a million different things. Don't try and task it with trying to do 10 things in a day. Just give it one daily highlight. Now, these tiny actions that you choose can make remarkable results if those actions are consciously directed towards your goals. And really, so check. Every day, I'm going to create a daily highlight. The one thing that I will get done today. My daily highlight for today was to create this video for you. So I prepared my day and structured my day in a way that I had enough time to prepare for this video. I set the tone, I put some music, I put my makeup on, and really to set the tone and to have this as my only daily highlight and to allow myself to feel like if I did this one thing, I'm going to feel really good because this video is going to be watched by I don't know how many people, but it's going to impact people if I'm in a place of focusing on this one thing. Now, in an age of distraction, having the discipline to just choose one daily highlight can be difficult, yes, because you have 10 things to do. But if you can just reduce all these distractions down to doing one thing every day, that's going to be incredibly useful. Now, when do you do this? It's interesting because even if you have a daily highlight and even if you've removed all your distractions, it's still like, when am I going to sit down and do this? Unless you put a time block in your calendar for deep work and you have this kind of protected time where nobody can access you, nobody can get in touch with you, and it's just you and your work, you're not going to get it done. I like to think of this as my morning time when I don't have any classes, nobody can get in touch with me, and this is my time to do my deep work. And that for me right now is writing these scripts, writing about my day, really journaling and making sure that my mind has clarity before I just jump into action. And so I'm a huge believer in having protected time. And Cal Newport, this really cool productivity guy, he says that doing deep work is the only way you can make massive strides towards your goals. And so once you've removed distractions and you've decided what you're going to do, block out this time in your calendar and say, for this period of time, I'm going to do just this. I like to use a Chrome extension. It's called Focus To Do. And basically, you get to put down how many Pomodoros or how many bursts of 25 minutes you're going to work on this set task. And so when I time block like that for 4 Pomodoros between 9 a.m. and 12 a.m., let's say, I actually get it done because I've now put it in. I know that it only takes this much time, and I've blocked it in my calendar, and I have a tool like a focus extension that reminds me to keep doing that task, keep chipping away at it until it is done. And fourth, I think that's really important is to be realistic. To be realistic with our goals, and quite often we fall into this trap of wanting to do everything. I know I've been there, you've been there too, but be realistic. Truly, hold a mirror to yourself and say, what can I reasonably get done, and be satisfied at the end of the day. Now, this is again comes back to the Greek concept of finding eudaimonia within your day. Like you find this life that's worth living by finding aspects of the day that bring you joy. And this means, like, of course, they've said this many times, find enjoyment in the process, enjoy what you do. But if you can find aspects of what you're doing that really bring joy, create a ritual out of it, beautify it, make it really truly enjoyable, and cultivate santosha or cultivate contentment within whatever you've done, at the end of the day when you go to sleep, really tell yourself, I've done so many things. I've been able to accomplish my one daily highlight, and I've had time to speak to my mom. I've had time to clean my room. I've had time to really take time for myself to read. And this means that at the end of the day, you feel good about yourself because you haven't pushed yourself and you're not hustling to the point where you feel sick, but you're understanding and finding santosha within what you have done. Number 5 would be to create a system or a routine around this. I like to think of procrastination not being an isolated habit that's attached to one task, but rather it's the lack of a system. It's the lack of an overall structure to your day that helps you get more stuff done. So this means that from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. every day, you do the same chunk of work every single day. And it means that you're chipping away at that time period every single day, and all your other commitments are organized around your deep work chunks. This is extremely crucial because, if you don't have a system in place and you just think of a to-do list and the old-fashioned way of getting things done with your pure willpower, it's not going to work. It should be a routine. It should be something that you come back to every single day at the same time, and eventually over time, you will make progress towards it. Now, I have to add a caveat before I say thank you and thank you for watching. Please like my video and all this stuff, because I truly believe that procrastination has some value to offer us. Even though all these productivity gurus today will tell you, oh, hustle, take it out, remove it at its root, procrastination is evil, and provide all this material for you to just keep doing, I personally think that everything in life has some value to offer, especially procrastination, because it can make us stronger. It can boost your willpower, because every time you procrastinate, think about it, you have a choice. You have a choice to choose to procrastinate or to choose to overcome that procrastination. And it is in that choice, it is in that decision that you're able to make that you can overcome your limiting beliefs. You can overcome that narrative in your mind. And secondly, it can make you a super learner. I'm a huge fan of this concept now and I've been researching it. But basically, a super learner is someone who just loves learning. And a super learner just thinks of it as every task has 2 outcomes. Whether you are a super learner or not yet, I really encourage you to read some literature on this, because being a super learner makes you see the world as a game, makes you see it as either you win or you learn. So, learning is something that you should be almost addicted to conquer procrastination, because procrastination is merely just an indicator that you need to push deeper into what really sparks you and understand, why are you procrastinating this task? Is it something that over a period of time you just don't enjoy because that set of tasks or that job or that thing that you're doing right now is not bringing you joy and you're not able to find santosha, contentment? This means that it's actually pushing you deeper. It's pushing you deeper to question what you really value. And of course, this means that you have to make a hard decision when it comes to removing that task or removing those set of tasks that you have to do from your life. But it also means that it frees up your mental energies to be able to do the things that won't feel like you need to put off. Now, in a moment, I just want you to make that choice. I want you to choose to act. I want you to choose action, because action creates things. Because action is the thing that sets the energy in motion. And when you can set the energy in motion, you can create wonderful things. It's like, mischief thou art afoot, take thou what course thou wilt. From here, you understand that you've now set the domino in effect. And all you have to do is watch the action take its effect. But before that, you must practice focusing the mind through your spiritual practice every single day. And you come back to it time and time and time again until the mind becomes less chaotic, or becomes more uniform and more compliant to whatever you ask it to do, whatever you task it to do. And this is your capacity. This is your capacity to change your habits. And of course, you can't change external things, but it is in your limited capacity to control these internal factors. And once you have acted, once you've overcome your procrastination, you'll realize that there is a joy in just work. The work itself becomes the thing that you want to do, because we already have the tools within ourselves. We have the tools within ourselves, especially now at a time like this, to cope, because we can really draw from our own resources to become more self-reliant, to become more self-sufficient. And using tools like sadhana and yoga and breathing practices, we can help to apply this focus and cause these tiny habits to create massive shifts in our lives. If you found this video helpful, then please like, share, comment, share this with a friend, and watch it again, because frankly, it comes from a place of really helping myself conquer procrastination to make this video itself, and I hope it had some value and some impact. Thank you and namaste. Thank you so much for watching.